but I can't pretend that things are fixed or fine for people who entrusted me with their story when that's just not true. So here's the real, more complicated story in 3 parts: the refund offer, the Zoo tokens, the lawsuit, starting with the most important part. And if you get one thing from this story, this should be it. These are the estimated damages in CryptoZoo: $18.5 million.
His lawyers did some things that can potentially backfire. And explaining this really starts with the weakness of his arguments. Let me put it this way. There's this old trial lawyer's saying that if you're weak on the facts but strong on the law, pound the law. If you're weak on the law but strong on the facts, pound the facts.
Logan Paul is currently in a state of absolute panic. For years, he's used his fame to dodge scandals, but this time, his money power isn't working. While he's busy flexing on the WWE stage, behind the courtroom doors, Logan is desperately trying to bury the truth. He sued Coffeezilla to act tough, but now that the law is asking him real questions, he's trying to hide his testimony from the public. He knows that if the world sees what he said under oath, the Reformed Businessman Act is over forever. Today, we're looking at why Logan Paul is terrified of his own words and how his latest attempt to silence the truth is backfiring in the worst way possible.
So we have a new update in the Logan Paul defamation lawsuit against Coffeezilla, and it seems like Logan and his team are trying to literally gaslight the judge. So yeah, as I just said, it seems like things are only heading more and more downhill for Logan. As if you haven't been keeping up with this lawsuit, well, for the past couple of weeks, Logan and his team have been trying to hide his deposition from the public. And for those who don't know what a deposition is, well, in this case, it's Coffeezilla's lawyers sitting down with Logan and questioning him about all of his scams.
Logan thought he could bully a journalist with a defamation lawsuit, but in court, you can't just edit the video to make yourself look good. In this latest update, we see Logan's legal team trying to gaslight a judge just to keep his deposition secret. He's essentially pounding the table because he has zero evidence and even less shame.
Bites for bringing us these detailed breakdowns of this case. So for those who didn't see the last update, Logan provided 4 points for why he wanted his deposition to be kept secret. Firstly, he said Coffeezilla can't be trusted with the deposition. His legal team claimed that if it isn't sealed, Coffeezilla might share it publicly, give it to other lawyers, or hand it to investigators. And the problem is, none of that is illegal. Secondly, Logan argued that Coffeezilla has been sharing information from the case with the FBI, so therefore the deposition must stay confidential. Once again, this argument doesn't work because there's no rule saying you can't give lawfully obtained information to law enforcement. Third, he tried to claim there's already a protective order in place and Coffeezilla is violating the spirit of it by sharing information outside the lawsuit. But this protective order that is in place doesn't actually stop Coffeezilla from sharing the information. And finally, Logan said Coffeezilla shared information with lawyers in the CryptoZoo class action lawsuit, and that this was somehow improper. And once again, Coffeezilla's lawyers just shut this down by saying non-confidential discovery can absolutely be shared with other related cases.
Did you hear those arguments? He's literally telling the judge, please don't show the public what I said because it might be used against me. No kidding, Logan. That's how the law works. He's spending millions on lawyers just to keep the world from finding out he's not the genius he pretends to be. It's pathetic to see a guy who calls himself a disruptor act so scared of a little transparency. There's an old saying in the legal world, if you're weak on the facts, pound the law. If you're weak on the law, pound the table. And in this next part, we see Logan's legal team doing exactly that, pounding the table. They know their arguments are thin, so they're resorting to aggressive, repetitive tactics just to distract the judge from the truth. Watch how Logan's lawyers are basically trying to create a smokescreen because they have no real stance left in this case.
So here we're talking about how I think that in Logan Paul's reply, his lawyers did some things that can potentially backfire. And explaining this really starts with the weakness of his arguments. Let me put it this way. There's this old trial lawyer's saying that if you're weak on the facts but strong on the law, pound the law. If you're weak on the law but strong on the facts, pound the facts. And if you're weak on both, pound the table. Pounding the table is often thought of as being like forceful or aggressive in your tactics, but I actually like to think of it as any strategy to try to essentially distract from the fact that there really isn't much to your case or your position in this particular argument. But the thing is, depending on your strategy here, you could find yourself in the danger zone with the judge. And I think that is where we just might be in this particular issue. To start, Logan Paul's reply is an opportunity to strengthen the arguments from his original motion. It's supposed to be pretty limited in that it's supposed to be responding to the opposition, but nevertheless, it should be able to use something to kind of bolster it somewhat. But instead of doing that, he basically repeats all of the arguments from his original motion, all of which, like I said, I think are already pretty weak.
It's a textbook move for a rich guy who knows he's losing. Instead of providing new evidence or actually defending his actions, Logan is paying a small army of lawyers to repeat the same failed points over and over again. It's a strategy designed to drain Coffeezilla's resources and burn through court time. But it's also a massive gamble. Judges aren't stupid. They can tell when a legal team is pounding the table because they have nothing else to say. This isn't a defense, it's a temper tantrum in a suit. Logan is so used to manipulating his audience that he thinks he can manipulate the judicial branch the same way. Now, let's look back at how Logan Paul tried to manipulate the public narrative before this lawsuit even started. After Coffeezilla exposed the CryptoZoo disaster, Logan realized his attack strategy didn't work. So he switched to the good guy persona. Watch this next clip where he releases a scripted apology, praises Coffeezilla, and promises to take care of his fans. It sounds great on camera, but as we'll see, every word of this was a calculated move to stop people from suing him for the real damages.
Coffeezilla is not a criminal. I called him, I apologize. Step 2, we want to offer a rewards program for players who are disappointed in the status of the game. So essentially you're going to be able to burn your base egg or your base animal for the mint price, which was 0.1 ETH or the equivalent in BNB. I am personally committing 1,000 ETH to this, which is about $1.3 million. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for how this has unfolded thus far, and I want people to know that they can trust me and that I'll always take care of the fans and people who support me.
Watching this now is absolutely sickening. He looks right into the camera, uses his sincere voice, and tells his fans they can trust him. But it was all a lie. He praised Coffeezilla just to look humble, and then months later, he sued him anyway. He promised a refund, but only if victims signed their legal rights away. This clip is the perfect example of the Logan Paul formula. 1. Act like a victim. 2. Pretend to be a hero. And 3. Manipulate your audience into thinking you care. He wasn't apologizing because he felt bad. He was apologizing because his stock price was dropping. It's not accountability, it's performance art. Let's connect the dots. Why is he so scared of this deposition? Because it probably proves what we've known all along. CryptoZoo was never meant to be a game. Logan's refund program was a trap. He only offered a fraction of the money back, and only if you promised never to sue him. He didn't save his fans, he bought their silence.
But I can't pretend that things are fixed or fine for people who entrusted me with their story when that's just not true. So here's the real, more complicated story in 3 parts: the refund offer, the Zoo tokens, the lawsuit, starting with the most important part. And if you get one thing from this story, this should be it. These are the estimated damages in CryptoZoo, $18.5 million, which comes from a combination of ZooCoin and NFT sales. And then this, much smaller percentage of that pie, is what Logan is actually offering to refund, on the condition, though, that all of the people who spent the last year suing him for the larger damages drop their case. So that's a refund of only 12% to drop 100% of the case that, as far as I can tell, Logan may be losing.
Think about the audacity. You lose millions of your fans' money, you wait a year to do anything, and then you say, I'll give you a tiny bit back, but only if you sign this legal gag order. That isn't an apology, that's a ransom. Logan Paul isn't a victim of bad actors on his team. He's the CEO of his own scam empire. From Dink Doink to Liquid Marketplace, he always follows the same script. Hype it up, take the money, blame someone else, and sue the person who points it out. Logan wants us to focus on Prime and WWE so we forget his past. But this lawsuit is backfiring. Instead of clearing his name, it's exposing his cowardice. He's stuck in a legal battle he can't win and a deposition he can't hide. The mask isn't just slipping anymore, it's gone. Logan thinks he can buy a reputation and silence the truth with expensive lawyers, but he's terrified because Coffeezilla has something he will never have: integrity. He can keep pounding the table, but the table is finally breaking. So, is the Maverick era over, or will he wiggle out of this again? Let me know in the comments. Hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into influencer scams. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.